On the eve of my divorce preparations, my husband suddenly had a car accident, lost his memory, and underwent a drastic personality change. Honey, I lost my memory and I'm scared. You have to protect me. Honey, I want kisses. Come give me a hug. Honey, come to bed quickly. Let's make babies. Honey, I really love you so much. We're in a contractual marriage, commonly known as a marriage of convenience. The news of Cashin's car accident shocked me for 3 seconds. It's 3 a.m., wasn't he supposed to be asleep next door? I rushed to the hospital, where I immediately spotted the poor thing, his head wrapped in bandages, sitting dazed and helpless in a corner of the emergency room. Everyone else had family by their side, while he was all alone. I quickly approached and whispered, "Does it hurt?" "It hurts." Cashin looked at me with pitiful, watery eyes, full of longing for care and affection. Is this still my cold-faced, aloof, domineering CEO husband? Are you a family member? Asked the doctor in a white coat wearing gold-rimmed glasses next to her. I'm his wife. Come with me. His condition is somewhat complicated. After listening to the doctor's complex and incomprehensible professional medical jargon, I only caught one key phrase: he's lost his memory. With mixed emotions, I walked over to Cashin and asked, "Do you know who I am?" "My wife." I said, "He hasn't lost his memory." "You just said it yourself." Cashin bashfully took my hand, looking both shy and expectant. "You must be my wife. I felt an inexplicable closeness the moment I saw you, and you're exactly my ideal type." Ideal type? I hesitated, unsure whether to admit that I had just been about to divorce him. Cashin gazed at me intently. I'm truly blessed to have married such a beautiful wife. Darling, let's go home. I looked at Cashin in disbelief. He would never have said something like this before. Could he really have lost his memory? Cashin wasn't seriously injured. Apart from his memory loss, he only had minor injuries. The doctor instructed that he could go home after a follow-up checkup in a month. The amnesiac Cashin was very obedient, doing whatever he was told, except he insisted on holding my hand the entire time. His reasoning? I've lost my memory, and everything feels unfamiliar. I can only feel at ease when I'm holding my wife's hand. I held Cashin's hand as we went to the pharmacy to get his medicine, held his hand as we left the hospital, held his hand as we took the car home. You can take a bath yourself. I yelled at Cashin, who was still being clingy after coming home. But the doctor said my wound shouldn't get wet. Your injury is on your head. Wife doesn't want to bathe me, does she dislike me now? Cashin lamented self-pityingly, it's all my fault for losing my memory and forgetting our sweet past. I understand why my wife is angry. I can take a shower by myself. Cashin grumbled aggrievedly and obediently went to wash up, while my head was spinning. This man might not have just lost his memory, he seems possessed. Frustrated, I returned to my room to tidy up. Just as I stepped out of the bathroom, I saw a freshly showered, half-naked hunk lying on my bed. Cashin patted the bed naturally and said, "Come to bed, honey. We'll sleep in separate beds. Your bedroom is next door." Cashin immediately put on a pitiful act, his eyes brimming with tears like sunny side-up eggs, whimpering, "Why separate beds? Don't you love me anymore, wifey?" Truth be told, there was never any love to begin with. No matter what issues we have, it's definitely my fault. Please forgive me, wifey. Cashin spoke while pulling me into his embrace. The intense masculine pheromones enveloped me as he lightly stroked my back, his fluffy head nuzzling against the crook of my neck like a spoiled child. Don't sleep in separate rooms, okay, baby? I was utterly disoriented by his tender affection. Though he had lost his memory, though he was absurdly handsome with those 8-pack abs, but, he called me baby. Seriously, who could resist the charms of a gorgeous man acting all spoiled? Moreover, isn't it perfectly natural for a husband and wife to sleep together? I adamantly refused to admit that I was seduced by Cashin's good looks and ended up weakly lying on the same bed with him. Cashin's broad hand rested on my waist, gradually drawing me closer. The next moment, His warm lips brushed against my cheek before tentatively moving toward my lips, as if cautiously seeking approval. I could clearly hear my heartbeat quickening, feeling my emotions sinking deeper. Raising a hand against his chest in protest, he instead took hold of it. "Good night, wife." Good night." Watching Cashin sleep contentedly beside me, my emotions were in turmoil. Should I tell him that ours is actually a marriage of convenience without any real feelings? I used to be the only child in the family until I wasn't. When I was 16, my father brought home another woman along with her son. That mother and son knew exactly how to please my father, so much so that within just 2 years, my father actually planned to let my stepbrother take over the company. I was already deeply resentful of my father remarrying, and now his decision felt like a knife to my heart. Mom is gone, and yet they dare to try and take away the company she and Dad built together. Absolutely not. To secure my inheritance of the company, I cut off all emotions and distractions, focusing solely on my studies and pushing myself to improve. I don't have many bargaining chips, except for the fact that I'm his biological daughter and that he feels guilty about Mom's death. But how long can blood ties and guilt sustain us? When I saw my father repeatedly affirming my stepbrother's position, even directly appointing him as the vice president, I knew that the man called father was finally going to abandon me. I confronted my father about it, but he said I'm a girl and will eventually marry. He claimed he's watched Vincent grow up and knows his character and abilities, insisting Vincent would take good care of me. He even said, as if it was the most natural thing in the world, "Weren't you two good friends before?" Hearing this made me furious. My biggest regret was ever becoming friends with Vincent. I couldn't bear the thought of the company falling into outsiders' hands, so I argued vehemently with my father. Eventually, he relented and said whoever got married first would inherit the company. To secure the inheritance, I had no choice but to find a spouse as quickly as possible. My best friend Nova suggested finding someone from a comparable background. She said Vincent was ambitious like a wolf. If I married someone from an ordinary family, his mother, and he might try to manipulate or even sabotage me. It would be best to find someone who could support my career. I deeply felt her analysis made sense, so I entrusted her with the important task of finding a suitable blind date partner for me. Nova lived up to expectations and arranged a blind date for me the very next day. The first person I met was Cashin. Cashin was also under pressure from his family to get married, and since both our families held considerable influence in the city, our union would be nothing short of a powerful alliance. Looking at Cashin's handsome appearance and refined demeanor, I kept a calm expression, but my heart was fervently praising Nova. This Nova, she really has some tricks up her sleeve. I stated my request in a businesslike manner and calmly asked, "Will you marry me?" Cashin gazed at me with deep, inscrutable eyes. After a long pause, he finally said with certainty, "Yes." And just like that, Cashin and I got married on our very first meeting. I needed marriage to contend for inheritance rights, while he needed a marital alliance to consolidate his position. It was a perfect match where both got what they wanted. We agreed to a contractual marriage, playing the loving couple in public while maintaining mutual non-interference in private. To show my sincerity, I said, "If there's someone you like, you must tell me. We'll divorce immediately, no strings attached." Cashin had a complicated look in his eyes. He neither agreed nor refused. I wanted to get it over with quickly. "Do you have your ID with you?" "I do." Cashin's eyes lit up slightly. "Are we getting the marriage certificate today?" "Go now." "Okay." Cashin smiled faintly, looking quite pleased. Why do I feel like he's more enthusiastic than I am? Anyway, everything went surprisingly smoothly. We met the same day, got married the same day, and I even brought him home that very day. My dad was immediately suspicious when he heard I got married. When he saw Cashin, he couldn't believe it either. When Cashin earnestly called him dad, he couldn't quite hide his mixed feelings, looking somewhat out of sorts. I later learned that Cashin, as the heir of an old money aristocratic family, was someone my father could barely reach even on tiptoe. Especially since Cashin had previously snatched a project from my father. I hadn't known about this at the time because my father had been working on it with Vincent to pave the way for him. When I found out later, my first reaction was actually a bit of secret satisfaction. Was this the subconscious mindset of a dutiful wife? In any case, my father was momentarily stunned before finally mustering up a semblance of father-in-law dignity when faced with Cashin's deadpan expression. Later, the two of them had a private discussion behind closed doors. Whatever Cashin said convinced my father that he was a reliable partner for life. Finally, my father entrusted me with the position of company director. I shot a provocative smile at Vincent, whose face was a mix of emotions. This round, I won. To keep Dad from getting suspicious, I asked Cashin to move into my villa, but he refused and insisted that I move to his place instead. After arguing for a while, we decided to buy a new one as the marital home. After all, we had to maintain the full pretense, and neither of us was short on money. Objectively speaking, Cashin is truly an ideal marriage partner. We are both highly career-driven individuals, not overly clingy with each other yet capable of supporting one another in certain situations. To some extent, we function more like well-coordinated partners. In daily life, we are both quite independent. After over 2 years of marriage, we've maintained a comfortable distance that works harmoniously. The reason I considered divorce was truly just an accident. That day, I secured a major deal, solidifying my position as CEO. Overjoyed, I thought of celebrating with my comrade in arms, Cashin. Our two families have grown even closer through this marriage alliance, with continuous collaboration over the past 2 years. It was naturally effortless for me to join Cashin's group. I just never expected to run into Cashin and his first love there. Most of my conversations with Cashin revolved around work, so I knew they had recently secured a major project and were celebrating. Cashin lowered his head to speak to the young girl, his brow and eyes carrying a smile, a tenderness I'd never seen before. The young girl stood shyly by Cashin's side, listening to him with a soft smile, her gaze filled with admiration as she looked at him. Many colleagues were whispering nearby. The CEO and Serafina look so perfect together. Rumor has it they were each other's first love? Serafina returned to the country just for the CEO, didn't she? I know that girl, Serafina, Cashin's unattainable white moonlight, the one he longed for but could never have. After marrying Cashin, we held a few small-scale banquets to avoid gossip. Once, one of his friends drunkenly remarked that Cashin only agreed to marry because his first love had gone abroad. Since he couldn't marry the one he loved most, he settled for the most suitable option. When I heard this, I felt utterly unfazed. After all, it was a contractual marriage, bringing emotions into it would defy the very spirit of the contract. But later, when I saw Serafina's photo in Cashin's graduation album, my heart still unexpectedly ached for a moment. Perhaps I wasn't completely indifferent after all. I watched Cashin and Serafina chatting happily and thought to myself, so she's back. I've always prided myself on not being someone obsessed with love. Back then, I only married Cashin to seize power. Now that my goal has been achieved, it's time to set him free and let the destined lovers be together. But Cashin. It's impossible to say I wasn't at least a little moved. Even though he always kept that cold, expressionless face around me, he was truly a great partner to work with. He always did his best to meet my demands, even secretly undermining Vincent. Especially, this man is really handsome, with flawless features and an incredible figure. Several times when I saw him come out of the shower wrapped in just a towel, I almost couldn't resist pouncing on him. After all, such a rare gem is hard to come by in this world. Ah, truly, the allure of men can be so distracting. However, as a driven, career-minded woman of the new generation, the first step to success is to cut off romantic entanglements. I quietly left, but the plan for divorce gradually took shape in my mind. Bad luck struck. Just as I reached the ground floor, I ran into an obnoxious guy. I tried to ignore him and walk away, but he clung to me like a persistent pest. Are you jealous? What's it to you? Aurora, do you really hate me this much? Vincent, it's rare for you to be self-aware. I was about to walk away when he suddenly grabbed my arm. Aurora, can you not be like this? We were, at least friends before. Friends? I viciously shook off his hand and snapped, the biggest regret of my life was showing you kindness and treating you as a friend. Aurora, I had no choice either. Was this really my decision to make? Then you can choose now, you can choose to get out of my family's conglomerate. Do you have to be so aggressive? Vincent sighed. Whether you believe it or not, I never intended to compete with you for the family fortune. I sneered at Vincent's hypocritical face. You don't want it, but does your mother feel the same way? Vincent stared at me blankly, at a complete loss. I sneered disdainfully, you abandoned your original surname the very next day you came to my house. Do you even remember what your last name was? I noticed you called my dad Daddy with great delight. I gave him a disgusted glance and turned to leave, but he stubbornly grabbed me again, whispering coldly in my ear, mock me all you want, I deserve it. But you shouldn't have entered a contractual marriage with Cashin just to spite me. I stared at him, stunned. How did he know? Suddenly, it hit me, the office safe. You despicable scoundrel. Vincent ignored my furious insults, instead smiling as he reminded me, divorce him. Don't hold him back. I think he and that girl are a perfect match. I don't need your interference, I said defiantly, though secretly, his words stung a little. After all, he wasn't entirely wrong. I was lost in thought for a moment before a strong arm suddenly pulled me into an embrace. Cashin. Wasn't he upstairs celebrating with his white moonlight? Cashin's grip around my waist tightened as he declared possessively, even if you two are siblings, you're still not blood-related. My wife is a delicate woman, Vincent, you should be more mindful of your actions. I noticed that while Cashin was usually cold toward others, he held a special hostility toward Vincent. I used to secretly relish being united with an ally against a common foe, but now, my feelings were far more complicated. Vincent gave Cashin a disdainful glare. What are you, anyway? Just a contract husband. I clearly felt the arm around my waist tighten, even to the point of slight pain. Our contractual marriage was supposed to be a secret, no outsiders knew about it. Vincent shouting it out like this was truly unprincipled. Especially since this was Cashin's company, and making a scene would embarrass everyone. I wrapped my arms around Cashin's waist, leaning softly against him. Vincent, how my husband and I are is none of your business, you're just an outsider. I looked at Cashin and said gently, let's go home. Cashin gazed into my eyes and responded solemnly, okay. His dark eyes seemed turbulent, with emotions I couldn't decipher. Ignoring Vincent, we walked away hand in hand. After getting into the car, I felt unsettled. First, I learned Cashin's first love had returned to the country, and then Vincent exposed our contractual marriage. It was truly troublesome. Fortunately, the group and I already hold substantial power, so a divorce wouldn't affect me. Besides, Cashin has been very good to me these past 2 years, it wouldn't be right to hold him back. Let's get a divorce. Ah. As soon as I finished speaking, a sudden break jerked me forward, tightening my chest. Cashin also realized his lapse in composure and calmly said, sorry. The car started moving again. A heavy silence filled the interior. After a long while, he finally spoke slowly. If you're concerned about Vincent finding out about our arranged marriage, I can handle it. No. I just feel, it's time for us to get a divorce. Cashin gazed calmly into the distance, his expression detached. His usually impassive face grew even colder, wrapped in an almost tangible sense of alienation. We were sitting side by side, yet he felt miles away. After a long silence, he finally spoke softly, all right. Cashin was calm, as composed as if discussing what to eat for dinner. Though I was the one who asked for divorce, his indifferent attitude still made my heart clench suddenly. I felt somewhat unsettled, and we stayed silent the whole way home. Upon arriving, I told him we should finalize the paperwork tomorrow. Again, he responded with a faint murmur. We spent our last night as contractual spouses peacefully in our separate rooms. Yet at 3 a.m., I received a call from the hospital. Cashin was in a car accident, Cashin lost his memory, Cashin turned into an clingy sweetheart, holding my hand and sleeping beside me. The man's light breath gently brushed against my face, and in his drowsiness, he instinctively tightened his arm around my waist. This was the first time we had shared a bed in the 2 years since we got married. Just 8 hours earlier, we had decided to divorce. I thought I would suffer from insomnia, but surprisingly, I slept soundly in Cashin's embrace. Waking up in the morning, I could still smell the aroma of food. Following the scent to the dining room, I discovered Cashin had prepared a lavish spread of exquisite breakfast dishes, both Chinese and Western. The moment he saw me arrive, he immediately fawned over me like an eager dog presenting a treasure. "Darling, good morning. Come and have breakfast." I sat dumbfounded at the dining table, staring bewildered at the feast before me. Since when did Cashin know how to cook? Cashin attended to me with impeccable service, serving me porridge, peeling eggs for me. He might as well have fed me directly. I'm really not used to this and have politely declined many times, only to be met with someone's puppy dog eyes looking pitifully at me. My wife is so smart, capable, and beautiful, isn't it only natural for me to make breakfast for you? That's really not necessary. Actually, Darling, are you upset because I lost my memory? Do you blame me for forgetting you? Well. How should I make this up? I'm in a hurry. It's all my fault for forgetting our sweet memories. I understand why you're angry. Sweet memories? Actually, there aren't any. I'm not angry. He lowered his eyes, looking pitiful. You don't even want to sleep in the same bed with me, insisting on sleeping separately. Yet last night you held me so tightly and slept so soundly. I must have done something to upset you. No, Darling, I'm sorry, darling, I was wrong. Please forgive me. Cashin's peach blossom eyes gazed at me with innocent grievance as he cooed and whined softly, calling me dear over and over until my heart wavered and my guard melted away. My already wavering resolve was quickly shaken, and somehow I ended agreeing not to sleep in separate rooms anymore. Watching Cashin's retreating figure as he happily went to do the dishes like an excited puppy, I suddenly realized, we were supposed to get divorced today. Given Cashin's current condition, divorce is temporarily off the table, but work must go on as usual. Worried that his memory loss might affect his work, I decided to accompany him to the company. I looked at Cashin, who was cold and expressionless as he got out of the car and confidently walked toward his office, and asked in confusion, "You, remember?" Muscle memory. I couldn't help but admire him. Was this what they called business acumen? Watching Cashin handle his work with such ease, I finally felt at ease. Contract husband lost his memory.txt. Just as she was about to leave, she saw his white moonlight Serafina rushing in with a frantic expression. "Cashin, I heard you were in a car accident, are you okay?" Cashin held my hand and asked sincerely, "Who is she?" Hearing this, Serafina immediately teared up, looking pitiful. "You don't remember me? I heard you lost your memory, it's really true. Cashin, we've known each other for 10 years. I was your first love." She gazed at Cashin with deep affection, and even as an onlooker, I found the scene utterly ridiculous. After all, Cashin's legitimate and lawful wife, was standing right there. And to call him so intimately. I was just about to counter when, coincidentally, my phone rang. It was a work call. I excused myself to Cashin and stepped out to answer it. When I returned, I saw Serafina crying weakly, saying, "Cashin, you've lost your memory. Do you not remember telling her you'd divorce her half a month ago? You also said we'd be together after the divorce. Have you forgotten all that?" I was shocked. Was this true? No wonder Cashin was so calm when I brought up divorce. "Is that so?" Cashin's voice was neutral, giving away no emotion. "Of course," Serafina declared righteously. "You said you only married her out of agreement, a mutual arrangement. There was never any real affection between you." Hearing this made me even more uneasy. "When we got married, we agreed to keep the contract confidential. How come now everyone seems to know about it?" Who told you that I married her under contract? Cashin's tone was icy, sending chills down one's spine. It was you. You told me so yourself. Oh, really? Hearing their conversation, I felt an inexplicable restlessness. As soon as I appeared, the two immediately stopped talking. I pretended not to know, said hello, and then turned to leave. But no sooner had I left than Serafina chased after me. Let's get divorced. He never loved you in the first place. What's the point of clinging to him like this? I can't stand being provoked by others. How intriguing. As his lawful wife, I'm entitled to half his assets, comfortable for life. You're despicable. Serafina snarled, closing in menacingly. I know yours is a marriage of convenience. If Cashin ever regains his memory. Name your price, I cut her off impatiently, skipping the nonsense. Ah? She was visibly taken aback. Can emotions be measured by money? 2 million. Aurora, don't go too far. 3 million. I know you're very wealthy, but I'm not that kind of person. 5 million, that's my final offer. Serafina was angered by my indifference. Aurora, do you really think you can buy Cashin's love with money? Who says I can't? I looked at her with an arrogant expression. It doesn't matter what kind of person you are. Trying to steal my man? Do you even stand a chance? I'm already married to Cashin, we're legally recognized husband and wife. Now that he's lost his memory, if I want to, I can wipe the contract clean without a trace. I glared at her defiantly. Do you think Cashin would believe someone without any memories, or me, his wife who's been by his side day and night? You, despicable and shameless. I lazily pick at my ear, how unoriginal the phrasing is. Serafina stares blankly past me, then suddenly grins maliciously and asks, Aurora, is Cashin only worth 5 million in your eyes? Isn't that the fair market price? Darling, I deserve a little more than market value, even just a single dollar extra. As Cashin speaks up, a fleeting look of triumph crosses Serafina's face, and I suddenly feel a twinge of guilt. Aren't you supposed to be in the office? What are you doing here? Cashin rushed over and pulled me into a tight embrace, exclaiming excitedly, if I weren't here, how could I have heard my wife's bold declaration? Darling, you love me so much. Serafina, unwilling to back down, interjected, Cashin, you heard what she just said. Madam, I must ask you not to slander my wife so casually, Cashin cut her off coldly. Also, we're not that close. Address me as CEO, or my wife might get jealous. I was surprised. Wow, you've got some fight in you. Serafina stomped her feet in frustration. Aurora, Cashin only thinks he likes you because he's lost his memory. How stable can stolen affection really be? This lady, though I've lost my memory, no one understands me better than myself. Before I could reply, Cashin spoke up, no matter what I've forgotten or how many times I lose my memory, I'd fall in love with my wife at first sight every single time. I asked, why? Cashin gazed at me affectionately, his tone gentle, direct, and intense, because you're exactly my type. Cashin continued, the moment I saw you in the hospital, my heart raced. I couldn't resist wanting to kiss, hug, and sleep with you. Sweetheart, tonight I hurriedly covered his mouth. This guy might have lost his memory, but his craziness was still unpredictable. Cashin smiled, took my hand, and pressed a soft kiss to my fingers. It tickled a little, and my heart skipped a beat. Where's Serafina? Oh, she just ran away crying. I was completely thrown off by Cashin's sudden confession, and before I could process it, he'd already brought me back to his office. Watching Cashin immersed in his work, I found myself lost in thought. This man is truly handsome. Sweetheart, if you want to look at me, you can do so openly, it's perfectly legal. Who's looking at you? I lowered my head, my face burning with embarrassment. How weak-willed of me, falling for his charms again. Cashin sat beside me, wrapping his arms around me, and chuckled softly, my wife looks so adorable when she's shy. I glared at him. And so adorable when she's angry too. Good heavens, how did this guy become so smooth-talking after losing his memory? Was he always like this? Or have I simply never truly understood him? Is this his true nature unleashed? Cashin's face closed in on me, his lips touching mine with gentleness. I hastily pushed him away. What are you doing? We're in the office. What's wrong with the office? It's only natural for me to kiss my wife. Mind your image. What's wrong with my image? Office romance suits me just fine. After a wild tussle with Cashin, I ended up being pressed onto the sofa, kissed breathless with my heart racing. As I washed up in the bathroom, the woman in the mirror seemed utterly unfamiliar. The reflection had watery eyes, flushed cheeks, moist lips, and an alluring charm. Is this me? Listening to the frantic pounding of my heart, I knew it was beating wildly for Cashin's passion. And just like that, I somehow spent an entire day in Cashin's office, forcing myself to work remotely. During that time, being taken advantage of countless times by someone, even though my heart was restless too, I even considered coaxing this extraordinary amnesiac into turning our contractual marriage into a real one. During lunch, Cashin asked, "How many years have we been married?" "Over 2 years, why?" "It's been 2 years, why don't we have a child?" He seemed a bit conflicted. Is it my problem or yours? I awkwardly tugged at the corner of my mouth. After all, I don't possess the ability for asexual reproduction. Seeing my silence, Cashin solemnly took my hand and said earnestly, "Wife, it's fine if we don't have children. We can live our whole lives in a world of just the two of us." Cashin looked at me expectantly. Touching? Not really. It was clear this guy had misunderstood. I rolled my eyes at him and said through gritted teeth, "There's nothing wrong with me." "So, it's my problem." Cashin morphed into those puppy dog eyes again. "Wife, thank you for noting me. I'll be good to you for the rest of my life. Thank you for ruining my appetite." I thought this was just a minor episode, but little did I know Cashin agonized over it all afternoon and brought it up again when we went to bed at night. "Wife, maybe I should go to the hospital for another checkup. I think there's still hope for me." I hedged with vague words. "You should probably be fine. It's just not the right time yet. We haven't conceived yet." He suddenly held me tightly, his eyes filled with anticipation. "Then let's try again. I think I'm in great shape recently." Even though I'm slow when it comes to emotions, I knew exactly what he intended to do, and my face immediately flushed red. Although my refusal wasn't firm, although faintly I was somewhat expectant. While I was still tangled in hesitation, I felt a rough hand slide under the hem of my nightgown, making my skin tremble faintly wherever it touched. A dense rain of kisses fell upon me like a storm, and for a moment, I was lost. But at the brink of surrender, my career-driven mind kicked in. Would doing this count as a breach of contract? At the crucial moment, I hastily pressed his hand to stop him. "Let's just sleep. You just got out of the hospital and haven't fully recovered yet." Cashin's eyes turned pitiful. "Then after I recover, it's okay? Or after a month when the follow-up checkup shows no issues?" How was I supposed to respond to that? All I could do was mumble vaguely in reply. Though Cashin felt a bit regretful, he was still satisfied as he held me in his arms. "Darling, I haven't heard you call me husband yet." In the darkness, he gazed at me with burning eyes, his gaze exceptionally bright. I called out somewhat awkwardly, "Husband." "Say it again." "Husband." "Hey." I couldn't quite see Cashin's expression, but I felt like he seemed very happy. My emotions were complicated. If he regained his memories, what would all this mean now? Half asleep in a daze, I heard someone whisper by my ear, "Wife, I like you so much." Though my heart was tangled in conflict, facing Cashin's pure, blazing affection, I kept falling for him again and again. I looked at my crumpled clothes and my swollen lips, and pouted in complaint, "Look at what you've done, everyone got the wrong idea." Why would they get the wrong idea? Cashin looked utterly confused. "Isn't this just normal between married couples?" I was at a loss for words. Just as the relationship between Cashin and me was heating up, that jerk Vincent had to pop up again and stir up trouble. That bastard just couldn't stand me having a few peaceful days. Vincent stole the contract from my office safe and placed it directly in front of Dad. Then both Cashin and I were called back home. The moment we stepped in, the atmosphere felt heavily oppressive. Dad asked, "Aren't you going to explain?" Ignoring Dad, I turned to Vincent and retorted, "Taking without asking is theft, Vincent. What fine upbringing you have, stealing from your own family." Vincent's face turned deathly pale, while her mother retorted sharply, "The group doesn't belong solely to you either. My son taking a contract, how can you call that stealing?" True enough, people like you who enjoy stealing from others' families would naturally feel shameless and even proud of it. Enough. Father cut off our heated exchange. What needs to be addressed now is the issue between you and Cashin. There is no issue between us. Cashin spoke coldly, as unapproachable as ever. Dad tapped the contract on the table. "You call this no problem? Just some playful antics between a married couple." I stared blankly at the person beside me. "You're really good at making excuses." Cashin squeezed my hand, signaling me to relax. Dad took a deep breath, furious. "I don't want to believe it either, but all these years you've been wary of Lila and Vincent, don't think I haven't noticed. With your temperament, there's nothing you wouldn't do to secure the inheritance. My father has always been biased, and now, saying these things in front of Cashin is like rubbing salt in my wounds. I usually endure it, but today, I feel particularly wronged." Holding back tears and clenching my teeth, I said word by word, "The company was founded by my mother and you together. It's one thing for you to marry a woman of questionable character, but now you want to hand over the family business to an outsider. I've given my all to the company over the years, why am I not capable of inheriting it? Or is it that, in your heart, no matter how hard I try, I can never measure up to the pillow talk of a mistress? You disgrace." My father, enraged, stood up to hit me, but Cashin blocked him. Vincent's mother immediately burst into tears, her face streaked with sorrow. "It's true what they say, being a stepmother is never easy. No matter how much I sacrifice for this family, I'll always be treated as an outsider. Aurora, can't you bear to have us around? Must I kneel before you to satisfy you?" Note, Aurora and Vincent retained as proper nouns, translated idiomatically as face streaked with sorrow, emotional tone preserved. Furious, I blurted out, "If you want to be the other woman, you'll have to grovel on your knees." Vincent saw me being so aggressive and also felt sorry for his mother. "Aurora, don't go too far, watch your words. You unfilial daughter." My father snarled and tried to discipline me, but Cashin blocked him completely. Would my mother come back if I showed mercy with my words? I glanced at my father and that woman, sneering coldly, "Don't tell me you've forgotten, while you two were having an affair in the study, my mother was taking sleeping pills in the bedroom. Doesn't it shame you to live together in this house day after day?" Mentioning my mother, my father slumped onto the couch as if deflated. "I know, you resent me. It's not resentment, it's hatred. Clearly, it was meant to be a contractual marriage between me and Cashin, but instead, old wounds were reopened." Later, my father and Cashin went into the study for a detailed discussion, while I sat in the living room with his mother, exchanging silent glances. I sneered and said, "Vincent, are you satisfied now that you've ruined my family?" "Aurora, I never intended to hurt you. I wish I had never met you, let alone shown you kindness. Every time I see this mother and son, I want to slap my past self across the face. Vincent and I were classmates in middle school. I was a cheerful and enthusiastic good student, while he was an outcast shunned by the class. As the class monitor, it was only natural for me to take care of everyone in the class, including Vincent. Even if someone told me, his mother is the other woman, he's an illegitimate child, the wealthy family looks down on them. Even when my girlfriends warned me, people like them are deep and calculating, Aurora, you better stay away from him. But back then, my heart was passionate, sincere, and fearless. I treated Vincent with fairness, just aiming to keep my conscience clear. When others tore up his workbook and threw it away, I bought him another one and handed it to him normally along with the homework of the whole class. Others mocked his worn-out shoes, so I bought a new pair and placed them in his locker to ensure our class formation looked more uniform. Others laughed at him for only being able to afford bread, so I took the initiative to apply for a subsidized meal plan as a low-income student. To me, this was simply part of a class monitor's duty. Then came the day when Vincent was cornered in the storage room by a group of older students and beaten. Filled with pity, I called for the dean. After they left, I approached the weakened Vincent and placed the medicine in front of him. "Why are you being nice to me? We're classmates in the same class." "Thank you." That day, it was raining heavily. Seeing Vincent covered in bruises and without an umbrella, I took the initiative to bring him home. It was his first time at my place, and Vincent looked around with curiosity, careful and polite. Later, Vincent's mother came by, saying the homeroom teacher had contacted her. That was my first time seeing that woman. She was indeed very beautiful, and even in plain clothes, her charm was unmistakable. She bowed repeatedly in gratitude, and I felt a little embarrassed, responding with a smile, "Don't mention it. We're friends." After that, Vincent took the initiative to get closer to me, discussing problems together and having lunch with me during the day. It seemed that with my protection as the class monitor, the harm and mockery from others toward him lessened. Vincent said solemnly, "Aurora, it's truly wonderful having a friend like you." I was still feeling smug, unaware that his mother and my father were secretly carrying on an affair. Vincent often came to my house to study together, and his mother would pick him up every time. My home was a bit far from school, so it was understandable for adults to come fetch us in the evening. But my negligence led to my mother leaving, something I can never forgive myself for. That day, as usual, I brought Vincent home, only to see an ambulance wheeling my mom out. My dad and his mom sat on the living room sofa, disheveled and visibly uncomfortable. At that moment, the world lost its color. It was also when I realized I no longer had a home. "Do you hate me that much?" Even though I knew full well that it was my father who had cheated, I still harbored hatred and resentment. I sneered, "Is there any reason not to? Aurora, I never intended to compete with you for the family fortune, but Cashin is treacherous, he's just pretending." "Enough," I interrupted him irritably. "My relationship with him is none of your business as an outsider." "Aurora, why must you be so cruel to me? You clearly know." "Vincent, don't forget your last name." Vincent gazed at me with an indescribably somber look in his eyes, full of grievance and pain, yet I didn't want to hear a single word he had to say. I stood up to leave, but Cashin and my father both came downstairs at the same time. Their expressions were normal, it seemed they had talked things through just fine. Cashin hurried toward me and pulled me into his embrace, carefully wiping away the tears at the corners of my eyes. "I'm sorry, sweetheart. I shouldn't have let you feel wronged like this," he whispered. Stunned, I stared at Cashin as all my pent-up grievances surged forward. In the end, it's not that people can't endure hardship, it just depends on who they're facing. Faced with Cashin's tenderness, I didn't want to hold back anymore. I turned and clung to him, sobbing uncontrollably, letting my tears soak into his collar. Cashin held me tightly in his arms, gently patting my back and coaxing softly, "Cry if you need to. I'm here, don't be afraid." My dad watched me cry nonstop but ultimately didn't say anything. Later, exhausted from crying, I finally spoke calmly, "Let's go home." Yet Cashin, with a thoughtful glance at Vincent, smiled and said, "Since we rarely come back, why not stay the night here?" It was only later that I realized just how relentless an amnesiac Cashin could be. I told him the walls were thin at home, and I reminded him that Vincent was right next door, but he stubbornly persisted, whispering sweet nothings in my ear. "Darling, I've already made a pledge to Dad." "What?" "Our marriage was never a contract, we have always been a loving couple, and what else? I always feel like there's something big coming next. And, next year, let him hold his grandchild." The rest of the words were all swallowed by Cashin's kiss. Although Cashin and I had been married for 2 years, this was the first time I realized he could be so fierce. Without restraint, insatiable, gripping my waist and exhausting me until the early hours of the morning. Oh my goodness, who can understand? I just cried this afternoon, and now I'm crying again in bed at night. When I woke up the next day, it was already noon. My back ached all over, and I could only curse silently. Cashin is such a bastard. As soon as I finished getting ready and stepped out, I heard Vincent say angrily, I will definitely expose your true colors, you despicable and shameless hypocrite. Cashin sneered dismissively, clearly not taking him seriously. I calmly walked out and took a sip from the remaining water in front of Cashin. Let's go. I don't want to see annoying people ruining my appetite. Okay, honey. Cashin obediently stood up and naturally took my bag. Vincent protested indignantly, he's been ambiguous with that Serafina, how can you not mind? Suddenly remembering something, I demanded coldly, you didn't just tell my father about us, you even told Serafina. Vincent's eyes darted around evasively, and everything was left unsaid. I rolled my eyes. How despicable. I just don't want you to be deceived by him. I ignored him completely, affectionately linking arms with Cashin and deliberately standing on tiptoe to kiss his cheek. I'm happy to be deceived by him. Vincent stormed off after I angered him, and I instantly felt refreshed and my mood brightened. Free from the constraints of the contractual marriage and without the interference of Vincent or Serafina, my relationship with Cashin skyrocketed like a rocket. I finally realized how interesting this person actually is. I had been deceived by his stereotypical image all along. He may appear cold on the surface, but deep down, he's full of sarcastic remarks. He said, every time I put on a stern face, those old folks don't dare to nag anymore. He also loved gaming. Aside from being infatuated with intimacy, he was dedicated to taking me into games, never minding how poor I was at it. I suspect he wanted the experience of teaching me, but unfortunately, I wasn't a good student. He also enjoyed traveling, often driving me out for weekend camping trips, pointing out the starry sky with great expertise. Watching Cashin talk so eloquently filled me with envy. Once, I was a happy child too. But ever since they came into our home, I was only focused on competing with Vincent, losing myself in the process without realizing it. Cashin held my face gently with tender care and vowed solemnly, if you've lost yourself, I'll help you find every piece back. In the future, we'll experience countless joys together. In response, all I could offer was an urgent kiss. It wasn't until the hospital called to remind me that day that I remembered to pick up his follow-up report. Thinking about the energetic man who pestered me with affection every night, I smiled self-deprecatingly. He was probably a little too healthy. But no matter how much I complained, I still obediently drove to the hospital. Following the staff's directions, I found the office of the bespectacled doctor from last time. Just as I was about to knock, I heard Cashin's voice. Can you just cover for me a little longer? I'm a doctor, not a con artist. You're really throwing your old classmate under the bus. How can you call it a trap? You're the ultimate wingman boosting our relationship. Helping create a perfect marriage like this is just accumulating good karma for yourself. You can have this blessing if you want it. The doctor sighed helplessly. If your wife finds out you're not better and just switches you to another doctor, the truth will come out immediately. By then, it'll be too late to cry to me. Just give me a little more time, I need to figure out how to regain my memory naturally. So Cashin wasn't actually amnesiac, turns out he and that doctor were classmates, and they conspired to fake amnesia to trick me. Angry? A little. But how angry? Actually, not that much. Recalling our time together over these days, something suddenly clicked in my mind. I took a deep breath and pushed the door open forcefully. The two people in the room were caught off guard, their faces turning a mix of pale and red, quite a spectacle to behold. Wife, how did you get here? I came to pick up your medical report. I guess, it's no longer necessary. Quite the capable one, aren't you, Cashin? Honey, let me explain. The doctor classmate was quick on the uptake and immediately stood up, flustered, saying, Oh, I still have rounds to make. Without hesitation, she abandoned Cashin and fled with her shield, even thoughtfully closing the door behind her to give us space. I crossed my arms and sat back in the chair. All right, explain then. Like a cold and aloof queen, I stood while Cashin was at a loss in front of me. After a long while, he finally sighed in resignation. I had no choice either. You're about to divorce me. So you deliberately got into a car accident just to scare me. The accident was real, it was an accident. But when I woke up, my mind was in a haze. That's when I got the idea. I looked at his little expression, completely speechless. Sounds like you're quite proud of it. Losing your memory is better than losing your wife, right? That actually made a lot of sense. What else are you hiding from me? Spit it all out. And the blind date with you was also arranged by me. What? I leapt up from my chair. This bastard had been hiding so deep? Who told you to forget about me? Why is he acting all aggrieved now? It turns out Cashin and I also went to the same middle school, but he was 2 grades above me. Rumor has it he fell in love with me at first sight and even wrote me love letters back then, but I'm too outstanding, receiving so many love letters that I just packed them all up and handed them over to Nova to deal with. Later, I went through family troubles and became rather withdrawn. Cashin, however, kept quietly watching over me, using Nova to send me chocolates, milk tea, and flowers. Seeing that I was focused solely on my career with no interest in romance, he didn't know how to approach me, so he strengthened his own career to help me take down Vincent. I must say, this move of his really won me over. Later, when he found out I needed to marry someone to inherit, he immediately volunteered himself to Nova. And just like that, my best friend packed him up and delivered him right to my doorstep. As I listened to his confession, I couldn't help but marvel, what an elaborate scheme. But I couldn't deny that I was deeply moved. During those desolate years of being hurt, there was still someone who cautiously protected me. Aurora, I like you, I've always liked you. I know my methods were clumsy, but I really didn't want to lose you. Silly. I rubbed his now healed head and said softly, why didn't you tell me about these things earlier? You were so cold before. I'm not being cold, I'm just afraid I might give myself away. Every time I get close to you, all I want is to kiss you, hold you, and make babies with you. I kept restraining myself because I was scared my true nature would scare you off. OMG, you didn't have to be so blunt. I let out a speechless laugh, saying, so, the real you is the one after losing your memory? Cashin responded somewhat shyly, you could say that. Then how much longer do you plan to stay amnesic? I'll stay amnesiac for as long as my wife wants me to be. I pretended to ponder, I quite like this version of Cashin with amnesia. Then I'll happily lose my memory forever for you. I took his hand. Let's go home. Okay, honey. The sunshine outside was bright, a gentle breeze was blowing, everything came together perfectly.